Welcome to our session today here on the new Microsoft Outlook. And what are we actually referring to when we say this new Outlook? Well, there is a new version that Microsoft has released. So I do encourage you to, if you haven't already, to get switched over to the new one. You should have noticed when you're in the classic Outlook. So that's what they call the old version of Outlook, the classic. That classic version does have a button that you can slide over to activate the new Outlook. I encourage you to do that because they have made some wonderful changes to Outlook that we'll cover here during our session. So what I wanted to start with is kind of what does the new user interface kind of look like and how have things changed? So first off, when you come into Outlook, you will have the reading pane turned on by default because we can take advantage of a lot of different features with that reading pane as you use Outlook. So let's start on the left-hand side and kind of work our way across. So on the left-hand side will be how you will navigate from the different parts of Outlook. So whether you want to go to the calendar, go into tasks, those types of things, you'll use the very left-hand side of the screen. And so you can see that there's an icon for mail, which is what I'm in right now, and that's going to display all of your mailbox folders. If you have multiple email accounts that you're managing, you can, of course, see those as well in that second pane on the left-hand side. So we have the pane furthest to the left and then kind of the under where mine says favorites, and then I have a list of all my folders. At the bottom of that column, you'll see add account. That's where you could add additional email accounts if you wanted to. We used to go to the file menu to do that. We don't have a file menu anymore. Everything has been rearranged, so to say, and we'll walk through where everything went to. So whatever it is that you click on from the left, of course, will change what you're seeing on the right-hand side. But on the left-hand side, there are some new things that I want to make sure you're familiar with. So when you're looking at the first icon is the mail, you'll have calendar, which will go through how the calendar works, but you're also going to see Copilot. If you have the setup for Copilot, you will see that available on the navigation as well. We also have people. So the two-person icon, you'll see the people. That, of course, is going to be your contacts. Then we have the blue check mark, which is your to-do. The old Outlook tasks is no longer available. We are strictly using the to-do, and we'll briefly mention that today during our session. And then the three-person icon is for your Microsoft groups. You can access group information through that icon. But one of my favorite things is we do have access to OneDrive directly from here as well. So when you see that blue cloud icon, that will be your OneDrive. So you don't have to leave your email to go access a file or move a file or work with a file. You can do that directly here through Outlook. But this is customizable. So if you wanted to open another app and actually pin it to the left-hand side, you can actually do that. So how you would do that is you would go to the More Apps icon, type in what app you're looking for, or you can choose from the list. The one that I personally use is Bookings because I want quick, easy access to my Bookings calendar. So if I click Bookings, it's going to open that app directly here in Outlook. And if I want to keep it available here, all I have to do is go to the icon on the left-hand side, right-click, and I can pin it. So by pinning it, it will stay there. Otherwise, if I click on something else, it will disappear. And by the way, that may look familiar to you how this navigation pane works because it's the same in Microsoft Teams. So now Outlook and Teams are so similar that the new calendar in Teams is your same calendar here in Outlook. But we'll get to the calendar here in a second. First, I want to walk you through some of the new features in Mail. So I happen to be in my inbox right now, and what you're going to see is when you look at the ribbon, there is only 3 tabs. Remember, we used to have a whole bunch of tabs going across the top with all these different commands? Well, they've changed the way that works now. So you can see that you have some of your same features that you did before on the Home tab. We do have the delete group where you can ignore an email, you can delete an email that you're selected on. We now have a reports group, which is referring to security. We have a respond group, which, by the way, you may notice that a lot of mine are grayed out right now. That's because I'm not clicked on an email. So let's say that I come into Outlook and I went to the calendar and I came back to Outlook. It's not selected on a message. You have to actually click on the message to select it. So I'll click on a message just so you can see on the right-hand side, it will display, of course, that message in the reading pane. Now all of my commands on the ribbon are available. So when I'm selected on an email in the Home tab of the ribbon, in the Respond group, you'll notice two icons that one is similar to what we had before, but it's called Meetings. You can turn an email into a meeting by clicking on that icon. And if you have Copilot, you could do Schedule with Copilot. I'll actually demonstrate those in a little bit. But I wanted you to kind of take a look at what you're seeing on the ribbon because things are a little bit different. And one of the things that is going to be different is in the Move group. We now have a feature called Sweep. So if you used to use from the delete group, we had a clean key. Oh, sorry, can't talk. We have a cleanup conversation that used to be in the classic version of Outlook. We now use a feature called Sweep. So if you are selected on someone's email and you don't need to keep all of the history of the conversations as separate email messages, which we want to get rid of those because they're duplicates, you can click Sweep. And from the Sweep message, you could choose the action you want the computer to do based on the person that the email was from. So I happen to be on this one from this Heather Wright. And what you can see from here is it's automatically giving us move all messages from the inbox, and it can move it to wherever you tell it to go. You can say always keep the latest message. So it will take the latest message in a string of conversations and move the rest of them from the inbox, and you can actually choose where you want to move them to. Normally we want to delete them because they're duplicates. They're part of a conversation. We only need the last one. So this is something that I use on a very regular basis. It helps manage your messages because we don't need all those other ones. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So now you can see that it is automatically set up and it is part of a rule. So the rules that we had in Outlook before have been changed. We'll get to where those are located at and how they work now. But I'm going to go ahead and just click OK. So now messages from that person, it's only going to keep the latest message and it's going to get rid of all the previous messages. It sweeps them out. Matthew, did someone have a question?
Yeah, someone was wondering how do they get the new version of Outlook? I believe they're in the older version of Outlook. They're wondering how do they get this new layout to appear on their screen?
Correct. So if they are in the classic, at the top right, it should give them a try the new Outlook. There's a screenshot of what it looks like on the bottom of page 1 of the handout, and all they have to do is slide that button over, and they will be in the new Outlook.
Perfect.
Okay? Awesome. So when it comes to kind of managing these messages, it's a matter of selecting the message that you want to manage, and then you'll have the tools related to managing that message. So let's say that I am selected on an email. I'm selected on an email from a coworker, from a company, whatever your case would be. Definitely get yourself familiar with what you have on the Home tab of the ribbon. But I got to tell you, I don't always go to the ribbon to do things. I right-click. So let me show you what I mean. If you go to an email within your list of messages and you right-click on the message itself, you're going to get a pop-up menu of all the different features that you can use to manage that message. I'm just going to point out a couple of things that are new, that are brand new to the new Outlook. We get the capability of choosing move. We do have move capabilities on the ribbon, but I usually choose it from here. So just so you know, it's in multiple places. You can copy the message to a specific location also. This is where one of the ways you could flag the message. And just so you know, I'm going to flag this message. I'm going to actually choose custom. So flagging works the same as it did before. You can still go to the flag icon. You can right click. You could also use the flag from the home tab of the ribbon. But where it goes and how you access it is a little bit different. So I'm going to flag this. I'm going to say custom. And now the window is different than what it used to be. And basically, we're saying that we want to follow up on this message. So I'm going to choose the date I want to follow up on it. I'm going to choose the time, so I can say exactly when I want to follow up on it. And I can choose a due date. So I can say it's due on this day at this time. So we can be managing that message. I'm going to click save. So keep in mind that the subject of this was forward Michael's Foods, because we'll kind of track that email. So you can see when you're looking at an email, you've got different icons. You have the flag icon, just like we did before. But there's two icons we didn't have before. One is the email envelope, which, if you recall from previous versions of Outlook, it used to be a column we would see on the left-hand side. What that does is toggles the message being read and unread. So if I want to mark this message as being unread, I can click that little icon for that envelope, which looked like it was closed. Now it looks like it's open. And it marks this as a new message again. We also have this push pin icon. This is probably one of my favorite features. I love this because if I don't want this message to get lost in all of my other emails, I can click the push pin. What that does is pins the message to the top. So now this message is in my pinned category at the top of this list. That is a great feature. I saw a couple of emojis come in with that one. So love that. We still get the delete, the trash can icons. We can still delete a message from there, and we don't even have to be on the message to delete it. But let me go back and talk about a couple of other things related to managing that message. If I go back and right click again, just so you can see a couple of other things, I could pin or unpin from here, but one of the things that we have is called snooze. What we can do, and this is kind of a Google Mail feature, they've always had snooze, but what this allows us to do here in Outlook is, let's say an email came in, but you're going to be gone for the next 4 hours. You're in meetings, whatever the case is, and you want this message to come back in later. You can snooze it. So we can say we want it to come back later today, this evening, tomorrow, next week, or we can choose a date and a time. So if I click choose date and time, I can actually choose the date I want this to come back, and I could choose the time I want it to come back. So it would leave your inbox and come back on the date and time that you snoozed it for. I think that's a great way to manage your messages too. Lots of new things that are great. So anyway, other things that I wanted to talk about are on the right click again. If you right click, one of the things that I use on a regular basis is down at the very bottom, we have this advanced actions. From there, you can create a task based on this message. So if you want a task to automatically go to your to-do, all you have to do is click create task. It's going to automatically open a new pane on the right-hand side of your screen, and it added that email as a task. So you could see it right over here on the right-hand side of my list. It says that forward Michael's Foods Excel training request. Notice there's a star here as well. I can click the star to mark that task as important. I'll show you where it goes in a little bit, but I'm going to close that pane on the right-hand side now that I have that task added to my to-do. I'll show you to-do in just a minute, but great option to have because a lot of times an email does need to become a task. And in the old version of Outlook, we could drag it, take the email and drag and drop it right onto the tasks. We can't do that anymore. They don't allow that drag and drop capability. Instead, we just right click and do it. See, it works the same. Okay, so let's talk about the right-hand side of the screen. So when you are selected on an email, you can see that I flagged it. So it's showing me that I flagged this message. But if you have Copilot, what you're going to see is at the very top. So I should say on the right-hand side at the very top, you see the subject. So I'm seeing the subject of the email. But right underneath it, I can summarize this email with Copilot. So if I click that summarize, it's going to summarize using Copilot. And basically what it does is it looks through the history of that email, everything in it, and it comes back and summarizes it for you. So you can see at the top, I can see the entire summary, and I can even ask Copilot questions about that actual email. Matthew, did someone have a question?
Yeah, someone says that they don't have the mail icon in the manage message options on each email. They can only see the flag, pin, and trash can.
And do they have the latest version
Of the new
of
Outlook.
the new Outlook? Because
Yes.
it was just recently added.
Oh, and
So
do they need the Copilot license in order to see that mail icon?
to see the mail icon, they don't need Copilot.
But to do the summary.
Yeah,
you
for the
need-
summary by Copilot, they do need a Copilot license.
Okay, good. So
Correct.
So it could be that they don't have the updated version of the new Outlook, or they don't have the new Outlook option toggled on.
Correct.
Okay.
So even if someone has the toggle button over and they're using the new Outlook, there's been updates to it since it was released.
Yeah.
And depending on if their organization does the updates automatically, they may not see that feature.
Okay.
So,
Great.
but they will have it eventually. All right.
Okay. And if someone has the Copilot license, but they don't see the
Yes.
summarize option for emails, could that be an update issue as well?
No, that they would want to ask their IT department about
Okay.
to find out why it is not activated in Outlook, because if they have Copilot, it should be there.
Okay.
Outlook, that would be controlled by their IT department.
All right.
Okay. That
Thank
was
you.
a great questions. Great questions.
Yeah, some great
All
questions.
right. Thank you, Matthew. So just so you're noticing also, besides having that summarized by Copilot, on the right-hand side of the reading pane, you still get the same things you did before with the reply all, forward, that kind of a thing. You also have your Viva. We have another menu for apps. So the same icon from the left-hand side, you could open up apps from there, but you have another menu. So that's going to give you more actions. So depending on what it is that you wanted to do, you would be able to use this menu as well. So they didn't cram a bunch of things onto the ribbon. They gave it to us in the locations where we would want them to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want to schedule a reply. Well, by the way, I could do a reply all by meeting, replying to everybody and saying we want to do a meeting. I could forward this message as an attachment, or I could schedule a meeting with Copilot. Let me cheat here for just a second. I'm going to create a new email just so you can see what happens. I'm going to create a new email to my student one, or actually, I'm going to create an email to myself from student one. I'm going to change who the message is coming from just to show you something. Sorry, it's opening up a message. So I'm going to send an email to myself, and it's going to be report. Can you do the report today? Just so you can see something that's going to happen. So I'm not going to click send. Because what if I know that person isn't in the office right now? So I don't want to clutter up their inbox right now with messages. I know they're going to be back at 4 o'clock this afternoon or 8, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, whatever. You can click on the down arrow next to send and delay the delivery. So we don't have that on the ribbon anymore. It's actually here where you could say schedule send. So if I click schedule send, I can choose exactly when I want to send this. So if I want to send it on a specific date, at a specific time, I can choose exactly when that's going to be. So I'm going to say I want to send it today, but I want to send it at 12:23, just to show you I could do that. Let me say that I want to send this at 12:30. I'm going to click send. So it's going to send, it's going to sit in my outbox until that time, and then it's automatically going to be sent. So that was part of I did that from a different email account, so it's not going to show up in my inbox until that time. So we get some other great features with that. But also when you are drafting an email, I'm going to click the delete on the right-hand side. I can click discard, because if I change my mind, we don't just delete it like we did before. Now we discard the message, and I'm going to say okay. Because let me just start a new message again just to show you another option, which is related to Copilot. So when you start a new message, right away you're going to see type /, or we can click where it says draft with Copilot. If I click that draft with Copilot, it takes me into a Copilot window. Once again, you do have to have a license for Copilot to do this. But here's some suggested prompts. So it's wondering, what type of email do I want to do? And I'm going to say announcement. So it's waiting for announcement for key details, and here's my goal, etc. So I can fill in the details. So write an announcement for, I can actually put in who the audience is going to be. And I'm going to say student 1. It'll catch up to me here in a second. And here's going to be the key details. New employee starting Monday. And my goal is to be very excited. Whatever you want to put in, then you can click the arrow and it will help write that email message for you. You will get prompted with keeping it or discarding it, or you can say make it shorter, make it longer. We could change the tone to be more casual, have it be more direct. Whatever it is that you choose from the menu, Copilot will update the message. So if I'm ready to keep it, I can click keep it. But what if I'm not quite sure about the tone of this email? What if I want to have some help with this? I can actually go to the Copilot icon at the top right. Go to the Copilot icon at the top right. I'm going to click on a feature called coaching. I'm going to click coaching because it's going to analyze the message before I send it out to let me know, should I change the tone? Should I make it more clear on what the email's about? So it's actually saying maintain positive enthusiasm. I've got the reader sentiment. Instead of I know you'll all give them a warm welcome, I could say let's all make an effort to give a warm welcome. Under the clarity, it says instead of our newest team member, consider using and then putting the person's name. If I want to apply these suggestions, all I have to do is click apply all suggestions. It's going to update my email accordingly. So pretty great way to be able to create an email and get some help with that email along the way. So I'm going to click replace because I like the suggestions that they gave me. It has placeholders for me to fill in the date, etc., and the name of the person, the role that the person will have. But once I'm done, I can go ahead and send it out. But if I don't send it out, and let's say that I go back to a different email, it will automatically save that as a draft. So you don't get prompted to save it. If you click on something else, it automatically does save it as a draft, just so you're aware. But let's talk about the fact that what if I have an email message that I actually want to find? I don't see where an email is. I could go to the search at the top, and it automatically is going to search everywhere for whatever it is that you're searching for. So if I put in the word the, it's going to not just search my email messages, it is searching Excel files, Word documents, anything recent that I have been emailing or working with, it's searching those. I can even go to the top and say, I want to search files, I want to search mail, I want to search teams, I want to search people, etc. And we can choose what category of searching we want. So pretty cool that we have that great search capability these days. Oh, and by the way, when you're in a new email, we no longer have the open the window like we did before to get more features. The features are on the ribbon already. We get contextual tools showing up, so we have a message tab. So when you're typing in your details, you have all of your tools right here on the message tab. Also on the insert tab, so we have message, insert, format, text, draw, and options, just so you're aware when you're creating a new email, or replying and forwarding. You get the same menu at the top. So when you're on the insert tab, we don't get all those choices that we used to. Remember, we used to be able to do smart art and charts and all of that. We don't get all that anymore because nobody really used that. It wasn't really something we encouraged people to use in an email, so they've limited. We still get the format text tab, but it isn't giving you as many features as we used to. And then the options tab still is going to give you the read receipt, those types of things. It even has auto formatting options, high priority, those types of things. So it's a matter of kind of looking around to see what is going to be the tools you want to use the most. I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to discard this message. The last thing here in the mailbox folder that I want to mention when we talk about the user interface is at the top right. When you look at the top right of Outlook, no matter what part of Outlook you're in, you're going to see first a square with a check mark. That is called My Day. If you click My Day, it opens up a pane that at the top you can click Calendar or To Do. If you click Calendar, it shows you your upcoming appointments. If you click To Do, it shows you your task list. So this is a quick, easy way to see other parts of Outlook without having to open them directly. I really like that feature. I use it quite often. Now I'm just going to close that pane for right now because you also access the bell icon at the top right. That is going to be your reminders. Matthew, did we have a question?
Yeah, someone was wondering if they schedule an email
Mhm.
and they close their Outlook, will the scheduled email still send?
Yes, it does now. In the past, we used to have to keep Outlook logged in. We don't anymore because it's actually sitting on the server. The server will automatically send it out.
Great, thank you.
Great question.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I did get my new email in. But at the top right, you have a gears icon. The gears icon is now the settings. So we don't go to the file menu to options anymore because we don't have a file menu. So if you go into settings from the top right, you have different categories on the left-hand side. And so right now I'm on accounts. And in the middle left-hand side, it shows your account's automatic replies. So that's where you do your out-of-office assistant. This is where you can manage signatures, categories, storage, etc. But the general chat or the general category on the left, that gives you your language, your appearance, your searching, your accessibility features. And then the mail category, this is where you can change things. And even if you wanted to manage your sweep, you want to do conditional formatting, you want to do rules, all of that is now managed here, even the quick steps. You also have custom actions that you can do. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to go through every one of these, just so you know what's there, because some things are definitely different. Okay, definitely different, especially the calendar. On the left-hand side, if you go to the calendar category, you're going to see first your view. You get your time zones. We have group calendar views as well. We have events and invitations. We have weather. So the weather is back because they took it away in the old classic version of Outlook for whatever reason, and now they brought it back. But we also have events from email category. We have shared calendars. So this is where we could share a calendar with someone else. But the biggest one is work hours and locations. This is 100% something you need to check. So if you come into work hours and locations, we now have the ability to choose what days of the week do you work. So let's say I don't work Fridays. I could uncheck Friday and it removes it from the list. I could then go in and say, on Mondays I work this hours, Tuesday this hour, that kind of a thing. So you want to make sure this is set up so that people, when they schedule something with you, they know what your normal work hours and work days are. Plus, the work days shows up in the calendar. So I'll make a change to this and I'm going to click Save. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. So those changes for the calendar at the bottom right, I clicked Save, so now they're ready to be used. I'm going to close the settings, and I want to go to my calendar from the left-hand side. So once you're in the new calendar, you still will see the same thing on the left-hand side. You'll see a list of your calendars that you have open. If you have multiple accounts, you'll see those as well. But what you're going to see that is very different, once again, is the ribbon. So on the ribbon, we have a home tab, but there's not very many features on the home tab. If you go to the work week view, this is going to show you the days of the week that you checked. So I don't work Fridays, according to my calendar. So I don't see Friday. I'm seeing Monday through Thursday. So make sure that you use that. It's a great feature. But let me go to the week view because that's usually what I'm in. And when you look at my appointments that I have, I want to create a new appointment. Let's say that, and by the way, everything's called an event. Everything now is just called an event. If you click on the date and the time frame that you want to create the meeting for, or whatever you're creating, when you click, it automatically opens a window where you can put in what the title is. So I'm going to say I'm going to do a department meeting. I can put in who I'm going to invite, but the thing about this is it's a regular meeting. It's not a Teams meeting by default. If you go to the bottom right and click More Options, or go to the top right and click the diagonal arrow, it will expand the window to give you more choices. From the full window, it will give you a button that you can slide over to say you want this to be a Teams meeting. You can then, of course, invite all the people that you want to attend. You can go to optional on the right to choose the optional people. You can make it reoccurring. You can click the globe to change your time zone. You can change the time, the start time and the end time. And what it's doing by default is it's automatically looking at everyone that you invite. It's looking at their calendars. So it's doing a suggested time based on the availability of everybody that you invited. So it's showing you that 1 a.m. or 1 p.m. is good, 2 p.m. is good on that day. And on the right-hand side, you're seeing the visual calendar showing availability. So this is great. We don't have to go to the scheduling assistant, although it is a tab at the top that you could use. And the other feature that is new is where it says search for a room or location. This is a feature that you can use to find a location of where you're going to actually do the meeting if that is configured through your Exchange server, which is your email server. But on the right-hand side, we now have this feature that you can turn on called in-person event. So if you want to notify everybody that is coming, instead of it being a Teams meeting, I'm going to slide that button off, and I want this to be an in-person event, and I could, of course, choose the room and the location of where that's going to happen. We're telling everybody that we want them to attend in person. Down at the bottom, you get your notes area where you can type in, you can attach files and all of that. So you get those same features. Once you're ready to send this, notice at the top right you have a down arrow. From that down arrow, you could save this as a draft if you wanted. Otherwise, when you're ready to send it, you just click send and it will automatically send the invite just like it normally does. But when you look at that on my calendar, you're going to see in square brackets it says in person. So right away we know that that's going to be an in-person meeting. And notice it has this little icon on the left. That's called a charm. You can right click on a meeting and you can hesitate on charm and change the icon related to it, but it actually looks at what your meeting is. So if I say I'm going to be traveling or I'm going to be doing an educational thing, it will actually use a charm related to the message, or I should say the meeting that you're entering. So it chooses an appropriate charm. So kind of cool that it does that. So you could change the charm if you wanted to. But I think it's kind of great that we have that capability. But the one thing that I absolutely love about this calendar and the way that it works is Microsoft Teams works the same. So if you're in Microsoft Teams and you're using the new calendar, you are using the same calendar in Teams and Outlook. Now, of course, in Teams, it's going to give you additional choices that we don't get in Outlook, but they work and look the same. Matthew, did we have a question before I do that?
Yeah, we actually have two questions. The first is, in Outlook Classic, there was an option to attach an Outlook email as an attachment in a new email, rather than dragging and dropping. Does this feature exist in the new Outlook?
Could you say that one more time? So in an email?
The option to attach an Outlook email as an attachment in a new email.
So they want to,
I suppose they were
take an attachment from an existing email and put it in a new email.
I think they were attaching the previous email as into the new email.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so rather than forwarding.
So when you're in a new email, they want to put an existing email inside there?
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
I don't remember if we can. I know we can save an email. Then we could attach it.
Okay.
I remember doing drag and drop. I can still drag and drop. So I just grabbed an email, drug it over to my new message, and it says drop messages here. So we can do it that way.
There we go. Great.
I haven't done that yet.
Look at that.
Good question. Thank you, whoever asked that. Thank you. So yes, we can.
Awesome.
Oh, and by the way, while I'm in here, here's my new email. That one that I scheduled to send, it came in.
There we go.
Yeah. So what were the other questions?
So the other question is, someone has every second Monday off. Can they set up an alternating schedule to be set up in their work hours so that their work hours aren't consistent?
No, unfortunately, that I have not seen yet. Okay. Yes, that would be a wonderful option. I'm happy we have those changes, but it doesn't allow us to do the reoccurrence patterns. Okay. As of yet. I've seen that in a lot of wishes, though. So I have a feeling that could be added. Not yet, though.
Okay, sweet. Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
No, not for now.
Okay, one last thing before I forget while I'm in this email. Notice down at the bottom of the right-hand side, I'm seeing a couple of, it says no subject, and report. I happen to be on the report email right now, but if I go to this no subject and click on it, this is actually going to reopen a message I was working on earlier. So it collects the things that you were doing during your time in Outlook down at the bottom. So in case you start seeing things piling up down there, it didn't have a subject on this one, so you can see that it's here. So it's basically the draft messages that I just did while I was in Outlook. If I close it, they're gone, but just so you know. Okay, but back to the email or the calendar for just a second. When we talk about creating new appointments and we talk about having Microsoft Teams now have the same calendar. In Microsoft Teams, if you turned on the new calendar, on the left-hand side, when you go to calendar, it's going to work just like the Outlook calendar did. So if you want to create a new event, all you have to do is the same thing. Click, it's going to give you the same window. So it's not different from one place to another. If you, and I'm going to click discard because, oh, I should show you that. If I go to more options, if this is a Teams meeting, I can add in, so let me slide over my Teams. Down at the bottom, I can add an agenda. I can't do that in Outlook. That's going to be a big difference between Teams and Outlook. So adding the agenda gives you that component, that loop component. But otherwise, now they're the same. They work the same, look the same. So I think that's easier on us to learn the programs because it's the same. Okay, just so you're aware of that. But otherwise, there's not a lot of menu choices up on the top of the ribbon when you're in the Outlook calendar. Very few view options. You know, it's kind of the same as what we see on the Home tab. So once again, it's going to be right-clicking. We right-click or click once on an event, and then you can go in and edit it. If it is a Teams meeting, you'll get the join button right there as we did before. But otherwise, if I click edit, of course, I can go back in and make any changes to it, and then, of course, send an update to the people that I had invited to that meeting. But otherwise, everything else works the same. But on the left-hand side, if you go to To-Do, To-Do is, of course, going to be your new task list. So we don't have tasks anymore. We are just using To-Do. And if you're not familiar with how To-Do works, there is a category here called My Day. My Day and all of these private tasks, because these are your tasks and your tasks only, unless, of course, you share them, but usually we don't. When you go to My Day, it will, if you haven't added anything to your My Day yet, these are the things that you want to put to say, I want to work on these tasks today. Not tomorrow, not last week. I want to do them today. So it shows me a suggestions list. So there's a button at the top right that you can turn on and turn off the suggestions list, but it's saying, okay, here's some suggestions of what you might want to put in My Day. Here's that task that I added from an email. I turned an email into a task for that Michael's Foods. I'm going to choose that to be part of My Day. So I'm saying add it to My Day. So that's a task I'm going to focus on today. At the end of the day, it will be gone. It's not going to be in My Day. It will still be in my task list, but every day is a new day. So My Day changes every day. You have to tell the computer today, what are you going to work on? So that's something that I really like. But something that is new is on the left-hand side, it says All. This is a new category that we got in tasks, which is technically To Do. So when you go to All, you have different groups. So these are my planner tasks, these are my flagged emails, these are my regular tasks, and I can have all these other ones, all these other categories, which are actually coming from the list at the bottom left. That's something that we can cover more when we are using those specific programs. When we do a session for just for to-dos and planner, we'll get into a little bit more as to how all that works. But the one thing that I wanted to show you is on the left-hand side, I'm going to go to flagged email. It's going to show that email that I flagged earlier, and it says it's overdue. So you can see that because of the date that I put on it, it's already overdue. But you can see that if I click on it, on the right-hand side, it gives us a menu of different choices of what it is that, I could change the due date, I could put a reminder on it, I could add additional notes. But because it came from an email, it also is giving you an open option. So I could click open and it's going to open the contents of the original message that I flagged. So I don't have to go back to email to do it, because this is something that the reason I flagged it is because I needed to do something with it. But as soon as I'm done working on it, I need to click the circle on the left-hand side to mark it as completed. So it no longer will be flagged as something I still need to do. And that's something that you need to kind of create some habits to make sure that when you are done with something, you come back and check it to say that it's done. Okay. But otherwise, I'm not going to do any more in the to-do category for right now. I'd like to talk about people for a moment. I forgot to put some information about people in your handout, but I want to mention it because there is something that's a little bit different that we didn't have before. It's renamed. It's named differently, I should say. But in the past, we could create a group. And so if I have a group of people that I email on a regular basis, I could create a group, give it a name, and then add their email addresses to it. It's no longer called group. Because Microsoft has groups, we can't have email groups as well. So now it's actually called a list. Just so you know, it's now called a list. So Matthew, I'll get your question here first.
Yes, someone was wondering, for to-do, can you link the Outlook categories and to-do lists?
Can we link them? So when you are in a to-do item, or in a task, I should say, when you're in a task on the right-hand side, you can see you have pick a category. So we can categorize a task. Just like we did before in the other classic Outlook, in tasks, we could categorize them. We still have the same categories. So the categories are exactly the same in to-do as they are in email and calendar. So they all use the same categories.
Great.
Okay?
So they are linked.
Correct.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let me go back to people for a moment, because the thing that I wanted to mention about people is, yes, you could still create a contact card just like you did before, but if you go to the drop down where it says new contact, you can create a new contact list. So the word group is no longer available. It's now list. So no group, it's called list. So if I go to new contact list, you still will just give it a name. So department, or the name of your department, whatever the case is, and then type in the people that you want to add to that group. So add in all the people that you want to have in that group. You can give the group a description, and then when you're done, click create. And it will automatically have that list created, so that if you want to email all those people at one time, you just use department or whatever you named your list. Okay? Matthew, did we have a question?
Yes. If we check off an item in the to-do list, will it remove the flag we added in the email?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Absolutely. So because they are connected, so just to show you, this is that email that I had flagged. And it was in to do that I actually checked it and said it was done. So here it also checked it. So if I still had it flagged, just so you know, I could click the flag here in email, and it also updates it in to do. So they're fully connected. Everything is fully connected back and forth. Okay, good question. But back to people for just a minute. Here, just so you could see on the left-hand side, it now has your contact lists. So what we used to have for groups, they would just show up in our regular contacts, but the icon looked different. Now we have a separate category for it. Makes it so much easier to manage these, because if I want to delete one or whatever, I could check it and then click delete at the top, and it will delete that list out. Or if I needed to change it, I can go to whatever the list is. On the right-hand side, I click edit, and I can edit the list. So if I need to add people, whatever the case would be, change the name, whatever. So just so you know, it's no longer contact groups. It's called lists, which takes me back to the left-hand side for a moment. There is that icon called groups. So since I was talking about it, I should mention what that really means. If you create a new team in Microsoft Teams, it creates a Microsoft group. So everybody that's a part of that team is a part of that group. We can manually create a group also without a team, but it allows you to have an email, a shared calendar, and or a team if you needed for that group. So here I have this group called Clinic. This is a SharePoint site, and there's 3 members. in that group, but it is a SharePoint site and it's a team site. So it's part of Microsoft Teams and SharePoint, and I could access the information directly here through Outlook group as well. So you can see here's my apps that I'm using with it. You can see my members. I can see the email address that was automatically generated for that group. And if I wanted to send that group an email, I can right from here. I can click send email and it will send an email to that group of people, to that SharePoint group of people. So anyway, just so you know, that's why they made that change in contacts / people. It's no longer called group, is because we have the Microsoft groups. And then I need to go back to the mailbox because there is something that I use regularly that I need to mention. If you go to the left-hand side and click Sent Items, if you go to your Sent Items, the ribbon on the Home tab is different. If I select an email from my Sent Items, there is an icon, sorry, this is an appointment. I don't want the appointment. Let me go to a different email here. When you are on an email, not an appointment, you have a different Home tab choice, and it's called Recall Message. So instead of us having to go into a menu to get it, it's an icon right away, but it's not there when you're in your inbox or your other mailbox folders. It's only available in your Sent Items because it's Sent Items related. So that is where you can go and say, oops, I sent this message, but I really didn't mean to. You could go back and try and recall it. If they didn't already read it, it will bring the message back. But anyway, just so you know where that is physically located at. All right. Now that was the topics that I was going to mention here for the new Outlook and a little bit of that integration of how we can use Copilot within email. Now, of course, you do want to attend some of these sessions that we have coming up for Copilot with Outlook and these other features, because there's other areas that we can utilize Outlook emails and calendar and things like that through the Copilot and going directly to the app.